Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. Today I'm here with Jamie, and we're going to be talking about how to beat the Dark Elder, the Drukhari, some hobby stuff, and the week that was for the Red Path. Alrighty, so yeah, Jamie, crazy week for Warhammer, crazy week for us as well.
Yes.
What did you think when on my first hobby video that we got Mini Wargaming joining us in? What was your thoughts?
Oh, it was astonishing. I couldn't believe it. I think I was messaging you. I said, hey, I'm going to upload the video now, and I kind of gave you I think you'll probably get about 200 views today, maybe 500 over the first week, because we got to build up that hobby appreciation, right? Because everyone just comes here so far for tactics and chat. I don't have a hobby reputation. And then a few hours later, I checked, I was like, man, what the hell? Why have I got 40, 50 comments on there, or whatever it was? And I look, and Mini Wargaming Dave and Nick Nanavati had bombed us, had chaos bombed the Red Path, and it blew me away, and I was like, oh my god, dude, check this out, like message you. How did you feel when you saw that?
Yeah, I mean, I was painting at the time. Surprise. I was working on some commission stuff, and my phone was exploding. And normally when I'm painting a layer and stuff, I don't like to stop, I'm just I gotta get this done. I can't get distracted or whatever. I was like, bloody hell, what is going on? Is someone in my family in grave danger or something? Right. And I checked my phone and there was all these Discord notifications, and I was like, oh, what the hell? Is someone gotten in trouble in Discord or something? It was oh, what's somebody done now? Yeah. And I saw it. It was it was really surreal because when I got back into the hobby 4 or 5 years ago, I was blown away with all the content available, tabletop tactics and mini wargaming, and I learned how to play 8th edition from watching mini wargaming videos. Right. I was just oh, okay, so I need to learn how to play this game rather than just reading the rulebook.
Yep.
So I watched them for a long time. And
was it there? Here's how the movement phase works video, and
no, not even. I was just watching battle reports.
Okay.
Because I was so fresh coming back into the game.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to understand. I wanted to see it in action. That's kind of the sort of learner I am. It's when I see things happening, I'm okay. When someone's trying to teach me any game, I'm you can say the rules to me, and I'm whatever. But when I see it happening, I'm okay, I get it now.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I was so it was really weird for me that I was in a position where something that we had created was being recognized by these people and by Nick Nanavati, who's such a renowned player.
Right.
It was pretty strange for me, man. I was I didn't really know how to process it, I was this is very, very surreal. It was awesome, and obviously I appreciate it so much. It was I never ever would have thought that anything I would have painted would be recognized on that level. So it was a very humbling experience. And it was really cool, and it speaks volumes of the channel that you've created over the last however long that we've been doing now, that it's you've managed to go from a very small sort of close-knit community to something that's now spanning to the most influential people in the hobby, which is pretty dope.
It's it was it's just that moment of seeing it, and I was like, what why is all these people commenting, and it's why are they saying the Eye of Chaos is looking at me? I know that's a mini wargaming Dave thing. What?
Yeah.
And then I scroll up, and it's mini wargaming. I'm like, oh, and it's I watch Shrine of Chaos. I have a hard time watching streams and live videos at the moment just because of my shift. But probably it's been several months certainly several months since I've watched a Shrine or honestly anything. But to have that pop up, I was yeah, that's it's good because number one, mini wargaming. When I got back again, right at the turn of 7th and 8th, mini wargaming was the first YouTube search Warhammer 40,000. Mini wargaming, tabletop tactics. There was a couple of other channels and stuff, but that was who I first started with. And I knew of them anyway from, you know, like kind of cultural osmosis, always been into like nerdy stuff, but never followed them until I got back into 40k. And it was super cool and like very well deserved on your part. And like, you know, I think I said to you, I kind of feel guilty that it's like the channel's getting it, and it was your hard work. Like honestly, it took me probably 15 minutes of editing because you'd done all the work, all the overlays and transitions and stuff, and I just put the intro and outro on and fuck it.
Oh man, I don't see it that way. Like the way I see it is like they're recognizing a really good channel. You know, it's not about anything else. And like I mean, you put in all the work, you know. So but here we are, you know. Hopefully only up from here, you know. Got a lot of cool stuff in the works. Yeah,
I'm really happy, and I'm happy that video in particular, like your first video, went off so well. Like even outside of the mini wargaming aspect, the views were cranking up anyway. It was beyond. I think it was number 2, or number 1 or number 2. Like on YouTube analytics, you can see how you're ranking over your last 10 videos. I was like, for an hour and a half video that goes against what if it was like an hour and a half tactical discussion, I could see it maybe like our last State of the World Eaters video we did a month ago. That did really well because it's something people want to know. The Red Path hasn't been known for hobby work. Suddenly it is, and I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. But yeah, that was your first week, your first video, and Mini Wargaming Dave, Nick Nanavati, a whole bunch of awesome people. I've been chatting to a couple other channels who were part of that, and trying to think of some things how we can kind of all work together in the future. You know, a bit of kind of mutual, you know, like community elevation or whatever the hell you'd call it. I don't know. It's been a pretty interesting week, ain't it?
It has. Like for the hobby as a whole as well, though. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I almost had a heart attack yesterday when I watched the first 5 minutes of Angels of Death. I don't know, did you see it yet?
Yes, I actually watched it live.
Man, like, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but there was one part and I was literally like, there's no way they're going to show that. And then they kept showing it and I was like, holy, like they're actually doing this, you know? Okay. It's like, I'm not going to give anything away, but you know, when he's like kneeling down in the chapel, and I was like, no, this is not happening. This is not happening on screen right now, right in front of me. And not only that, but like a Decor of Krieg animation as well. Yeah, I was like, dude, the diversity.
So much variety, yeah.
I was talking to my roommates today, and we were saying we're pretty sure that every single Xenos faction is represented in some form. You know, because we've got Necrons, you've got Tau, you've got Eldar. Dark Eldar aren't. Dark Eldar and Harlequins aren't. But you have everything else. Yeah. You know?
They may feature as like... And how they're going to have to keep making this stuff. I mean, it's a paid service. It's, you know, it's an alternative subscription. So they're going to have to keep putting stuff out. I'm sure they're going to fill it with like GW Bat Reps tournament coverage.
Yeah, I think they said there was more stuff coming. Yeah. So that isn't just animation. But I'm hyped. And I mean, Astartes 2, man. When that popped up on screen, it was so well delivered. I was just like, it's so simple, just Astartes 2. And you could only hear the like clanking of the boots.
Also.
And that sent shivers. Like I was just like, dude, this is and not only that, but like, so one of my favorite movies of all time is Pacific Rim, which is like such a stupid movie. It's so terrible, but I love it so much.
I understand.
And when I saw that there's going to be a thing of Chaos Knights versus Imperial Knights, I was like, 40k Pacific Rim, I am about this life so much, dude. I was freaking out. But yeah, so that's going to be awesome. And then we had the Admech book go up on pre-order. Yeah, so...
And,
another video we have on that. Yeah, we'll do the Drukhari first.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that another time. But before we move on, because we could talk about the week that was. We could honestly just carry on, but we've obviously got a kind of a subject here. And before I move on to that, I do want to quickly remind everyone watching, we're doing the Be'lakor giveaway, commission painted Be'lakor by the paintsmith Neil, who I did a video about last week. So all you got to do for that, folks, is donate $5 to Save the Children using the Tiltfire link, which will be in the description below. Really love it if you could consider. We've raised, I think, as of about an hour ago, it was about $300, which is pretty good. That's
wow.
The first couple of days it just skyrocketed, and we've had a nice consistent, every day another $10-20 and stuff. But I want that number bigger, a lot bigger than that. So come on, everyone, just drop $5 and it's good odds of getting an amazing
$5 to get a Be'lakor of that level is like,
yes, it should
why
be
would
illegal.
You not?
I mean,
it should be, yeah.
Yeah, I'm up for a lot of decriminalization of a lot of things, but I think that's one I'd be okay. No, that's stupid. You're not doing it. It's.
But hey, I mean, send $5 towards a really good cause. You could have an incredible Be'lakor running around on your tabletop, decimating the foes of the world leaders.
Yes, yeah. Just to have one, on display, and even if you don't run demons or you don't even play chaos, how the hell you can win it? You could just pretend you painted it, right? You could just, I did this last week. It ain't a big deal,
Go to a tournament, win best painted model.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally did that.
I think people had realised that one, but
Yeah.
But and also, I just want to, before we get into the meat of the video, like we were talking before, or we've talked quite a bit about the sort of things we're going to do, like together, like in this kind of it's not really a podcast, it's a sit and chat, ain't it? And we've mentioned it before, but one of the things we want to do is kind of pick a faction that's kind of viewed as very meta faction right now. And how can we, as World Eaters players, whether you're a true competitive player, or if you're just playing at your local game store, someone's going to rock up with Drukhari eventually. And even if they're not running 5 raiders, their rules are so good, it's going to be hard for them to not be a strong opponent, right?
Yeah, totally.
So one thing we're going to do is like every couple of weeks or something, maybe every month, depends on Codex releases. Dara and I are going to pick a faction. We're going to kind of do a bit of research on it and just discuss what could we do? How can we integrate World Eaters' abilities, unit options, and so on, to counteract whatever the particular strengths are. I'm not saying we're going to create a list for you that's going to automatically win, but how to guide your process, right?
For sure.
Seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you here today, if you do this one thing, you will win every match against Drukhari. I will just, I'm going to explain like my own thoughts around the whole thing.
Yeah.
Some ideas, some things you need to be thinking about when you're fighting against them.
Yeah.
It's more like, tips and tricks, really.
Yeah.
But I think everything we're going to talk about is probably quite valuable if you haven't heard it already.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of obviously great resources, other channels, sites like Goonhammer and stuff that will give you information in however you prefer to digest it. But we're coming at it from a World Eaters perspective. So, all right. So, Dara, why don't you just kind of give us, because I know you've actually got to play a few games, a couple of games against Drukhari. Give us your brief or your kind of overview. Don't go into like specific numbers and stuff. Mm-hmm. When you've been playing them, what's going on? Like, give us the cliff notes, I guess.
Sure. So what's going on is there's a lot going on, and that's actually, I would say, probably what makes the Drukhari one of the toughest armies to fight against. It's simply the volume of things you have to deal with, the micromanagement you have to do, while also still trying to macromanage the whole game. It's incredibly difficult because I don't think Drukhari are broken. I don't think they're busted. They're not Iron Hands. But there's certainly some things in there that probably need a little bit of tweaking, and a couple of things that are the army isn't broken, but there's a couple of things in there that is, like the succubus that can get like 48 attacks.
Yeah.
That's very obviously not what's intended for the game.
Yeah.
You know, that's not up for debate. Or dark technomancer racks that can just go around and flame you and overcharge and no problem. But yeah, so like what is going on is that there's a lot of things coming at you really fast. They're going to be in your lines in turn 2, guaranteed, maybe even turn 1 if they want to. They've got a high rate of good firepower. Lots of small units which can dish out a ridiculous amount of damage, but are incredibly squishy and flimsy themselves, which is what you really need to focus on. But the issue is they will hit you in so many successive waves that it's very, very hard for you to deal with that, because you might get through the first wave, but the casualties you will incur from getting through the first wave that are caused by the second wave will cause you to lose the game. So the most important thing, and like you've said it in past videos, we've said it together, and it's so important against the Drukhari especially, is understanding how to do your trades. Like you need to, every single fight against the Drukhari needs to be a trade up, because they have so much to put against you that you need to trade up in every single fight. You need to be maximizing every single attack, every single shooting ability you have. You need to make sure everything is perfectly focused and that it's going into the right things. If you're putting a squad of berserkers into 5 Kabbalites, something has gone wrong. Unless it is to take an objective that is going to win you the game. That is completely not what you need to be doing. You know, it's very, very difficult to try and manage that across the whole battlefield, while also still trying to think 2 turns ahead. Okay, I'm dealing with this now. I've killed maybe the 30 witches, but what happens when the 20 incubi hit me? Or the racks come out of their raiders? Or, you know, what happens like when X, Y, and Z happen? Like, they have so much going on for them. You need to be thinking about that, but you also need to be so in the moment and thinking, okay, right now this is what's in front of me. How do I deal with this? And how do I not overcommit to this? It's difficult, you know, but it's fun. I actually really enjoy doing that, because I'm like, oh my god, what's going on? It's so scary. But yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, as an overview, that's generally what my take has been from my own experience. And my experience is limited at the minute. You know, I'm not like, oh, I've played everything there is to play against the Drukhari. I know everything. But
you have played.
Exactly.
Like, I haven't played against them even on TTS, so like mine is pure reading and kind of videos and stuff. So one thing I've noticed, and the old strong versions of Drukhari was Talos list, grotesques for a little while. They weren't, obviously they're cheap Eldar squishies, but they were a more elite army previously, more chunky models with high point investments. Now, from what I've read, what we've talked about, so many of the infantry options are now viable. And I know the grotesques are the flamer ones, right? With the, I can't remember.
Liquefier gun.
Liquefier, that's it, right? I know they're like more like elite infantry, but or like
still troops
T5.
though.
Right.
They're T4, I think.
Oh, is it T4? Okay.
But it's still a T above, you know, your regular guys. But they have like Feel and Pains and
the combat
ways to get in vulnerables and stuff like
combats. But there's all those little things.
Yeah, they can be resurrected and stuff as well. A bunch of stuff, you know.
Yeah, there's.
They're the dead guard of the Dark Elder, if you get it.
Right. As I was kind of like looking through some of the lists from like the Dallas GT and stuff, I was like, man, it's like the theme has changed. I prefer this version. Admittedly, yes, it's very strong right now. I don't have an issue with that. Like, I do agree completely that it does feel like there needs to be some minor changes, some fixes to the 48 attacks, things that obviously shouldn't be. But I like the idea of 4, 5, 6 raiders arriving in the battle space, and
like it's the meta Dark Elder army on the table looks amazing. It's so cool. It looks like a Dark Elder army. Like when my roommate put together his like competitive list, I was like, dude, that army is so cool, you know? I was so glad for him, because I was like, that's an amazing themed army. Like, it's like 30 incubi, you know? I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, these like demonic guys with like huge glaives coming at you. I'm like, man, I'm so about it. And like every codex has that build, you know? It's a testament to the rules writers that they can make an army look as good as they do on the board now and still be, you know, the cutting edge. That being said, one of the things that is a problem in the book is the raider, and it's not as much of a problem as people say, but it's definitely a problem. And I think Tabletop Tactics put it perfectly. It's such a big problem because it makes everything else so good, because the raider is so efficient and it's a dedicated transport. Everything inside it will be made more efficient by the raider's efficiency. The fact that a raider is the same points as a rhino, has 2 more capacity, more movement, can fly, has a dark lance, that you can't compare that.
It's open top.
And it's open top. It's open top.
And the things that you're putting in it are going to be your while we stand we fight units that have ridiculous shooting power.
So
it's
to me, the fact that that and a rhino are the same, that doesn't make sense.
No.
I will fully admit that is, in my opinion, wrong. You know, I don't I know it's like we're working off an old book and stuff, but a rhino in a Space Marine army, which is a modern codex, is also still 85 points. So straight up problem. You know. And
the concern I have, because like the raider, it's so good. It needs to be cost more, and I don't know how. I don't want to like restrict it to 3 per list or anything. I don't think that's right, but regardless of what the fix should be, I'm not going to be able to answer that question. The comparison to the rhino, 100%, because whilst I can understand it for loyalists, because they want to push primaries, they want to push the impulsors and everything else. I get that. It's a business. Loyalist Space Marines are now a new they're a new army. It's Primaris Marine.
Totally.
And like it or not, eventually that's what they'll be. 5-10 years, Mini Marines will be legends. Is my prediction, and I'm hoping I'm
think
wrong,
so too.
I
mean, at the end of the day, Primaris look really good.
Yes.
You know,
they're going to stop making Mini Marines because there's no point in making a basically obsolete unit. No one's going to buy Mini Marines if you can buy Primaris Intercessors who are better and look better, unless you're like a collector.
Which is totally fair and valid. And if people prefer Mini Marines, that's fine. But I'm just like, I see a Primaris Marine on the table now, and I'm like, that's a Space Marine. You know, to me, that's like, I get it. Like the movement and stuff. It's very good. But I mean, and then we have our problem with our rhinos. But it's I mean, look, that's a separate issue. There's a chapter approved coming out next week, so you know, maybe we might see some change. I'm not too hopeful for points in this chapter approved. I don't really care too much. I just hope that my drills and my Hellblades stay the same. That's the only thing I'm really worried about, because that could really mess with me. But I can't really see them being touched, because aside from us, there's no one running drills or Hellblades in a competitive setting.
And they're not broken. They're efficient, but they're not broken. So.
A drill should not cost more than it should, and a Hellblade is also quite not expensive, but it's well costed. The only thing I am actually concerned about is the Leviathan. I think that it is still undercosted for what it does in terms of how I'm using them all the time, and I'm going to talk about them in how to counter the Drukhari. I think they're one of the best units for fighting against them. But I think they're like 270 points, the loadout IROC. I think that's incredibly cheap for what you're getting at the minute, which is my problem. I'm like, I know when the Chaos book comes out, it will be way more balanced, but I'm like, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, well, my Leviathan's 270, 100 points less, I got a Mauler Fiend who is garbage, you know? It's like, but I know when the Codex comes out, those Demon Engines will be really competitive with that, you know? So, man, I don't know. But anyway. Look,
we're at that point where if a year ago or 6 months ago we'd bought Dogecoin instead, this is that moment. Invest in the Chaos units you know are going to be good. Forge Fiends, Mauler Fiends, Helldrakes, I think will be good. Right now they're pants, but that's the thing. The Chaos Rhino needs it. They either need to give us a new Codex transport, a flying transport, something, or make the Chaos Rhino worth it. Because that comparison, point for point, there is no comparison. There isn't.
In every single way, a Raider is better. In every single way, there is no competition. And
except the Rhino can repair 1 wound a turn on a 6-up. Just don't forget that.
I haven't run Rhinos in months, so I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, which is another way to counter the Dark Elder, which, we'll get to that. But,
okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about the games you've played. Like,
yeah, sure.
Like specifically, like the first game you played, how it, just an overview, how it went and how you felt afterwards, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so honestly, so I played, it's my roommate who runs the Dark Elder, obviously, and in 8th edition, we played some awful games. They were awful for me. I don't think he particularly enjoyed them either. It's when we were like hardcore training for our big tournaments. He would bring very, very, very good lists, which back then I think he was running a lot of like Venom spam. There was like 8 Venoms, I think, full of like Cabalites. It was a really, really good list. And he was running them with bits of Craft World Elder as well, because you could still Doom and Guide and all that. But so he used to be able to do the amazing thing where he could just park all his Venoms on top of buildings in such a way that they were crowding up so much space that my Berserkers couldn't get up there as well. So like we would just play some games and like it was brutal, and I was just like, of course you would do this. We're training for a competitive game. You need to do this. So I would just be not able to interact for the whole game, and he would just basically wear me down. And then there was other games where I would just have all my stuff blast off the board in 1 turn by efficient shooting. It's not like that anymore, and I'm so glad it's not. So like despite the fact that I still haven't gotten the W against them, our games are so much fun. Because like I'm so glad that the Dark Elder are not that anymore, and that they're not as bad as they were at the start of the night, because they were so bad. But so how it goes now is very much like I was saying, where I'm like fully switched on the whole time, because I'm like, I need to micromanage everything, I need to macromanage everything. So it's a lot of like trying to so people say that you can't get out of line of sight of a Darklance because they're on these really fast transport things and stuff. That's not really true. If your board has enough terrain, you totally can still get out of line of sight. Like I don't get why people are saying that. Like, you can't advance and still shoot with those guns anymore. They lost that ability. So like they can only move as far as they can move. And sure, they've got really long range, but like if you have like big L's and stuff, which we use like quite a few of in our games, you can like hide yourself in and behind them. It's not that difficult. But like you're not going to get out of range of everything. But like if you go in with the mindset of like, I can't hide from anything, you won't hide from anything. But if you're like, I will try and hide from a Ravager or 2 Raiders, you'll be able to, you know? And that's like 1 less of those really high damage weapons, but there's still only 1 shot. So yeah, basically I was running my competitive list, which I'm still sticking by. I think it's the best list I've written so far. It's the double drills with all the Berserkers inside them, the 2 Leviathans and 2 Hellblades. That's basically the core of the list. I'm playing around with the little bits and pieces at the minute. But that's fundamental. So those units are all really good at managing to survive against Darklances for a lot of different reasons. So I haven't run it yet, and I didn't run it in our first game, but I'm planning on using a Dark Apostle for his 5+ invuln aura and keeping him next to the drills, because they're the only things that are vehicles in my list that don't have an invulnerable save. Because the Hellblades do, and the Leviathans do. The Leviathans have a 5+ invulnerable save. That means 1/3 of the Dark Lances that manage to wound you, which is already pretty tough to get to, are not going to make it through. So any that do have their damage reduced by 1 because he's a Leviathan. So they're D3+2 instead of D3+3. That is hugely significant. Hugely significant. My Leviathans lasted quite a while when we were playing. They were so it's like pretty funny what actually happened. So his Ravagers like weren't doing so hot, and he was getting like really sick of like they were missing, they were going through and all that stuff. So he charged one into a Leviathan.
How do you equip your Leviathans?
His Claw and Storm Cannon, and a couple of Hunter Killer missiles as well for a good laugh, and Volkite. So yeah, I clawed up the Ravager. That was cool. Ravager exploded, killed my lords, killed my Exalted Champion, killed the 3 Berserkers who were holding an objective, killed my Leviathan, who was only on 3 wounds left. Basically took out a huge chunk of my army. He was like, oh, that's the most the Ravager has done all game. And it was an explosion.
Oh my god!
It was so funny. We were honestly, because like we were like literally like went into it. I was like, oh yeah, now is going to be the time that he powers up and does a load of damage. And then we were like, okay, I guess he is. It was funny. It was really really funny. And it was at like such a point in the game that like it was still all to play for after that. You know, I had lost so much that I was like, oh, it's over. But yeah, that was certainly amusing. But also on that point, watch out for Dark Elder vehicles in combat. They're like ridiculously good. They hit on 4s and are like quite strong, have AP, have a lot of attacks. Yeah, they can mince a Berserker squad, so don't like willy-nilly charge into a Raider with 5 Berserkers because it could kill you. And definitely watch out for the interrupt on that one. I would say put vehicles into their vehicles if you're talking about combat.
Yeah,
but
drill, for instance.
Yes, which, oh my god, the drills in those games, they are monstrous. They will tear apart Dark Eldar vehicles.
Okay.
So, to give an overview of the games and such, like, basically, he's hitting me with these constant waves that I'm having to deal with. These, like, hyper-fast guys coming in, always having to deal with these threats. I basically tried to move away from the Incubi as much as I could, until I couldn't anymore. The Incubi are brutal. They're so insanely brutal. When they are powered up with Drazaren and Archon, because he was running a real space raid.
Right, okay.
When that's all going for them, there is nothing in the game they won't kill. 100%. They are savage. They are I would say they are the most combat efficient unit in the game, without doubt. When they have the right buffs in them, a Berserker squad look like Imperial Guardsmen compared to them. They are really really good, but without their buffs, not so good. Not so good at all.
Hold on.
Yeah, go on.
So I just uploaded a video about an hour before, or half hour before we started talking, just going over my list process, right? How I write a list. And I believe one of the comments I made in that video was how efficient Berserkers are. So
they're still really efficient.
No, I know.
They're still like, really, really efficient.
There's nothing in the game that's going to... I suppose it's technically true. All right, sorry, mate. Carry on.
As like independent squads that can move off by themselves, Berserkers are more efficient because there was a couple of moments where it was just the Incubi by themselves fighting a squad of my Berserkers and they didn't kill them all.
Right.
Like that happened more than once, but I know when they powered up fully, they took down a Leviathan who was on full wounds, and I was like, okay, wow, and that was humbling. I was like, okay, I already respected them, but I was like, I really need to respect these guys now. So basically, I moved away from them as long as I could, and then I did commit into them when I had to. I got a few of them down, but Drazaren and the Archon were there as well, and the Archon had some form of good stuff on him anyway. Basically, I lost my dudes there, but where the Incubi, where I got into them, I killed them most of the time. I think of the 30, there was 10 left alive at the end of the game. They're not hard to kill at all. They're so easy to kill, especially with Berserkers. They just fall down. It's like a stiff breeze. They're toughness 3, 3 up safe. Okay, big deal, 3 up safe. I make it a 5 with a stratagem. I have all the attacks in the world, you die. You're still winning them on 2s because you're still strength 6. You know, they are no harder to kill than any other form of Eldar. So they die fast and they die hard. The Tormentors never came up. I think I completely overestimated how good they would be. It's really hard for them actually to work because leadership is not an easy thing to roll higher than. You're basically talking about like, think of it as like charging, right? So you need like, in the case of Berserkers, you need a 9-inch charge to go off at like these really critical moments. It's not reliable, you know. So Tormentors, not so much to be feared about, but still something to be aware of at the same time. I was always thinking about them when I was charging, so I had redundancy. I was always putting multiple squads in, you know, to be like, just in case the Tormentor goes off, because you know, when they go off, it will be significant. So yeah, apart from that, it was all just like, because I play very reactionary anyway, which kind of suits the Dark Eldar matchup because they're coming to you no matter what happens, so you might as well react. So yeah, it was all like, there was a lot of like moving around, getting to objectives, that kind of stuff. The usual things. Drills were a star for me. They're so good. in the Dark Eldar matchup as well, there was so many moments where I was like, if these were rhinos, they just wouldn't exist right now. In every game I've used them, they have gotten me into the midboard where I need to be safe, as opposed to rhinos, which sometimes get popped in your own zone and leave the berserker set. That's never happened to me with a drill. And I've played a few games with them now. I think, especially in the Darklands world that we're living in, where you're looking at D3+3, that's like, if 3 lances go through, that's a dead rhino. 3 lances go through against a drill, it's not dead. Not necessarily, you know?
I do want to, where you mentioned a little bit while ago about the Dark Apostle and the Illusory Supplication, 100%. Like, I played my first game with the drills. It was on Tabletop Simulator last week against Dan. And he brought World Eaters. He brought a single drill and a rhino because his list was different, you know, was his own concoction. I ran the 2 drills, 2 Hellblades, you know, the list I built. Completely without any influence from anyone else. I came up with Drill Gang. I came up with it. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I do remember. I might actually try running those myself and see how they work out.
Hellblades are really useful.
No way.
Yeah. But yeah, actually, I did mention that in my video again, like how my list, I was like, so I got this from Dara and I got this from Dylan, and you know, just kind of like, I think that for me is a way.
That's how you do it, though. You pull from the people who are like doing stuff. You know, like all of my lists have been like, oh yeah, like I suppose my current list is very much like my own random crap that kind of gel together. Yeah. But like my previous ones have been like, oh, this guy's running like small berserker squads. I'll give it a try. Yeah. Oh, it was really good.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff,
yep.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for sure.
But yeah, so I ran the Apostle with the 5-up, and the drills. Like, although Dan beat me and he beat me by a good margin, he should have beaten me by a lot more, a lot quicker. But the drills, you know, the toughness 8 and the 3+ and 16 wounds, I believe.
14, I
14
think.
Wounds.
Yeah.
They're tough anyway. They're tough little trucks. And then that 5-up made all the difference in the world. It saved me from several. What was he shooting at me? I think it was his melters. When he hit me with his melter, I think he got all the hits and like 4 wounds, and then I saved 3 of them. Now I got a lucky roll, but saving 3 of 4 melters
with 5-ups, sometimes you spike it, and that is something
it will happen.
I always talk about with my roommates. The 5-up save is so good because sometimes you spike it, and when you spike it, is I know in that first game against the Dark Eldar, 3 Dark Lances went through on my Leviathan once. Right. I saved them all. Yeah. And we were like, man, 5-ups. Sometimes they're insane. Why would you never take them if you could take them? Is my point, you know?
They're critical because when you're a Marine or a power armor player, 3-up is your standard save, and you know, outside to get your Terminator armor or something like that. But everything's rocking a 3-up, so you know your AP 0, your AP 1s, you're rolling against volume. You're going to take some chip damage. Once you breach that -2 to -4, like the las cannon, the melter, plasma, generally you're looking at D6 or D3+3 or the higher damage, which is exactly what you don't want. You don't get. There's not many weapons I can think of which are like -4 1 damage. I can't outside of a
maybe like
weapon,
the weird like orc shock attack guns.
Yeah,
that, like,
there's going to be something for sure.
Yeah,
but in general, it's, you know, if you're -3, -4, it's a D6 damage or a D3+3. So having that ability to cap that save, you're not saving 1 wound. You're saving up to 6, maybe 7 wounds against certain armies, you know, like the stacked buff. So it increases the importance of it so much more because you don't care about losing 1 or 2 wounds to 40 bolt guns. But losing 6 wounds to 1 melter or 1 dark bolts or whatever, it really. So yes, the Apostle with the 5-up prayer, certainly for round 1 and hopefully round 2, depending on how you got to play, I do 100% support, and that came from, you know, that one there was mostly pushed by Mike P. You know.
Yeah, he brought me back into the Dark Apostles as well in a big way, and I one thing that, like, I guess I don't know, do people really forget it? But like they always have Dark Zealotry as an alternative prayer. So when the 5-up is no longer useful, give them the full rerolls in combat. You know, I really like them. I'm excited to try them again. It's like you said. So in metas like the one we're currently in, where it is extremely high and consistent damage weapons but are single shots, that's when the 5+ is most powerful. It's not so good when it's like waves and waves of, we'll say, small damage weapons with low AP. It's not making a difference there. You're talking about las cannons that are AP4, so for Space Marines in turn 1, the drill doesn't get a save, a rhino doesn't get a save. With a 5-up, it gets a 33% chance of not taking any damage whatsoever. It is insane. I always try to make sure that every vehicle in my army has a 5-up, and so the first time I ran the list, it didn't have it. I also brought the Red Butchers, which as you know yourself now, they don't really function in that style of list. I learned it in that game. I have. It's sad, but look, you know, it's sometimes it's good that they don't always work. It's very healthy to change up your mindset and get away from the crutch of, well, why wouldn't I bring the Red Butchers, because they're always useful all the time. Sometimes they're not, and I kind of like that, because I'm like, oh, this is forcing me to be like, what goes in there instead? So now I'm bringing 3 5-man Raptor squads for deploy scramblers and all that kind of stuff. And let me tell you, if one squad can kill Drukhari, it's Raptors. They're damn good at it, you know.
I had thought of that. It's, there's a few little. Well, we're gonna kind of talk about our specialist, like what we've got that can do the work. But yeah, so overall, Drukhari they're a tough army for literally everyone, right? Like, if you want a 50-50 chance and not a 30-70 chance, you need to run Drukhari. Quite frankly, like at this moment in time,
I think their win rate has actually dropped a lot recently from the Dallas Open weekend, the one that followed after it. They actually, I can't remember exactly, but I know last weekend they had a pretty rough time. They weren't doing as good as they used to be. I think people are starting to understand.
It's adapting to the meta. Every single book that comes out, your Facebook, your Reddit, everyone, oh my god, broken. It's like,
it's
the
month. AdMech at the minute, you know.
Give it a month, 2 months. We're barely back into mass tournaments, right? Our GTs are starting to kick off a lot more now, but it's like in the movie Jaws, when they open the beach too early and like a couple of people go out and risk it, then suddenly everyone floods out. I mean. But the thing is, Drukhari came out at the kind of end of a lot of the restrictions here in the United States. So now we're starting to get the games, and the people that are top tier but are playing their, Space Marines or Eldar, I've had 5 really tough tournament games against Drukhari, but I've learned all this. I played Nick Nanavati and he crushed me. But I now know, okay, so if I change this thing on my list, he can't pull that trick now.
Exactly.
So now the meta is, we've got not exactly a counter meta, but everyone else is adapting to deal with the Drukhari, and it will Drukhari is still going to be strong, but it will AdMech in a couple of weeks' time, once we get the first, oh my god, it's ridiculous, it's broken, nerf, no.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's really interesting. I was talking about this with my roommate, because we were trying to work out why there was like an explosion of dominance with the Drukhari. You're looking at these 70% win rates. So what I've always found, and it's actually really reflected in the Irish meta here, the best players are often Eldar players, and that's not because Eldar are very good. It's because Eldar have a ridiculously high skill ceiling, which they are probably the hardest army to master, but when you master them, they're one of the best armies. So there's people like Sean Naden who have played some form of Eldar forever. There's people like Nick Nanavati who have, like I remember my first exposure to proper meta tournament play was like hearing about Nick Nanavati's Ynnari, and I was like, whoa, that's crazy, that guy can do some stuff. The people who understand the Eldar as well as they do, when they are given a book as good as the Dark Eldar, it's terrifying. Yeah. So we were talking about that, and I remember when the Iron Hands came out, right? Your average Joso could pick up an Iron Hands army, someone who is going 1-4 at a tournament, and I think the stats were saying that he would go on average 3-2 just by picking up that army. From 1-4 to 3-2. That is not the case with the Dark Eldar. Yeah. You need to be really, really damn good at the game to win that many games with the Dark Eldar. And that is such an important distinction, and that is why they are not broken. Because if you can't do like what you could with the Iron Hands with the Dark Eldar, they're not broken yet. So it's just the people who are really good at the game are really good at playing Eldar, and it compounds into this thing where it's like, damn. So like you've got like the people who finish in the top 10 and the people who finish in the top 5, and there's a gap there. You know, there's a significant gap. So that's why everyone's freaking out, because all they're seeing is the top 5 results. They're not seeing the Drukhari players that get absolutely pounded and go 0-8. I know, I think it was on one of the more recent Long War things. I know Wyatt was talking about going to the Dallas GT, and he was saying that like there was Dark Elder players there that got absolutely smacked around all weekend.
Well, I know, like when the first couple weekends or tournament results were coming through, the number of Drukhari players as a percentage of all tournament attendees was very low, because most people have a Space Marine army, right?
Yep.
You know, when you come into the hobby, you're probably getting a Space Marine army. It may be dusty and dirty on a shelf somewhere. Dark Imperium box. It's literally the most common army for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So when Iron Hands hit, all right, just some black spray paint, a bit of trim, I've got an Iron Hands army. I just need to buy a, Leviathan or whatever. Everyone had an Iron Hands. Drukhari are a very niche. They're within a niche, like the Eldari overall. Within that, and they have a lot of options. So if someone's got like, oh yeah, I've got a 1500 point Drukhari army, if that's all they've got, they may not have all the tools necessary, like of a true collector, someone like Archon Scari or something, like a legit Drukhari player or Spider from Tabletop Tactics. These players who are Drukhari players and have probably got 5, 6, 10,000 of models.
But I mean, even Spider was talking recently about how he doesn't even have Homunculus.
Oh,
that's
really?
the thing about Drukhari, because he was like, I want to run real space, but I don't have it. You could have 5,000 points of Drukhari, and still a third of the army is like not in your hands. My roommate doesn't have any homunculus stuff. It's stuff like that where it's like, yeah, sure, you play Drukhari, you might not have the specific hotness that you need right now. They're a niche within a niche within a niche. That's the thing about them. I kind of like that. I think they're cool that way. But yeah, the results are the results. Things will balance out over time.
Absolutely.
I'm not really too worried, as long as like the kind of 3 key problems with the book, so the Raiders, the Succubus, and the Liquefier Racks. Once those get addressed, I have no problem with the book whatsoever, and I don't want to see any more changes. I don't want this army nerfed, because I love how it plays. I love its complexity. I think it's such a cool army, and I love playing against it. I think it's one of the most fun armies I've played against, aside from Blood Angels. Okay.
Well, let's develop on a bit. Like, what tools do you think that we, as a running a pure World Eaters list, I know you've kind of talked about some of your units already, but specifically, what is it about them that kind of counteracts, whether it's the Dark Lance or the combat shenanigans or whatever it is that we're going to face, right? Because for me, from looking through the lists, I'm going to pull up this on the screen right now and so people can watch. Goonhammer did what they gave like their summary of things that have been present in every top list, every Drukhari top list. So they're all running triple patrols, generally 5 or 6 raiders per list, at least 3 Dark Technomancer racks with the liquefiers, Drazar, Master Succubus or a Master Archon, Incubi, and Cavalite Troopers. So the Dark Technomancer racks, Raiders, and Incubi, and then Drazar as well. But those are the sort of things we're going to be facing if we're playing in a competitive, GT or something where someone's bringing us a very strong list. What have we got? What is it we can bring as like general guidelines first, and we can maybe drill down into units or combos or something.
See what you did there.
Look, I appreciate a good pun. If someone when they edit this just hashtags drill gang on top of my face, it happens. but yeah, Raiders. What did I say? The racks and Incubi. How do we deal with these? What do you think?
Cool. So there's a lot of different ways that we can go about dealing with this kind of stuff. You got to crack those transports open ASAP. So if your opponent is bringing Ravagers, which they sometimes are, they're a dark horse, they're a bait. Don't worry about them. You know, I worried about them in my first game to my detriment. I thought they were going to be really scary. They didn't really do that much and allowed the Raiders to push up the board. So if you see Ravagers, ignore them until you have to, then deal with them. Deal with the Raiders first. Raiders aren't hard to kill. They can be, but they're not very hard to kill. So things like autocannons, really good against them. That's why my list spams the crap out of autocannons. Each Leviathan has 8 shots. Each Hellblade has 8 shots. So you gotta really bring that in. Things that are also really effective. So the drills, they're good. They can take down a Raider in combat. They can take down a Raider in shooting. They will probably one-shot a Raider on full health in either shooting or combat. So you've got those. You got to get them in range. Getting danger close to Raiders with a drill can be risky, but you can crack open a Raider with the melta shots and charge into infantry and do some stuff there. But so you got to think about breaking open the transports first. That's absolutely the key. It's tough to say which ones to get out first. I think as scary as the Incubi are, I would rather break open the ones with Dark Technomancer racks because they will wreak havoc on our Berserkers. They will just delete them. The Incubi have to get to you, and at least with the Incubi you have a chance of doing a combat interrupt. You have a chance of countercharging. There's a lot you can play around the Incubi. You can't play around Flamers that just melt you. So crack open the Dark Technomancers.
The racks are quite expensive points wise, right? They're the ones I think touched on earlier that typically they'll put while we stand we fight. If I'm thinking right, because there's a build of one of the infantry squads which makes them slightly more expensive than Drukhari, and therefore while we stand we fight them. They stay. They're protected by the Raider shell. So of course, not only do you want to kill them anyway, because you want to kill the Raider, you want to kill the ridiculous shooting unit inside, but you're also reducing up to 15 points of victory points your opponent is otherwise guaranteed to keep, right?
Yeah, and picking secondaries against the Drukhari is actually extremely easy, but we can get to that a bit later on. But yeah, you really want to bring those guys down first. I think it's usually the Homoxites is what brings them, the upgradable choice is what brings them to that level. Not that hard to kill, to be honest. People think they're really survivable. They're not. I killed them with a squad of 5 Berserkers with an Exalted Champion. Okay. And it wasn't, I really overkilled them as well. We were kind of both just that was disappointing, Also, if you kill the Raider they're a squad of 10, they're losing 1 or 2 in an explosion, Now, the thing is, why people bring them for while we stand we fight is not because the unit is particularly survivable, it's because they're always going to be inside a Raider. So when you identify where the racks are, you need to identify all the Raiders around them and take those out as well. Because you need to make sure they're not hopping into another Raider in the next turn. You gotta stop that. I can't emphasize that enough. You need to disrupt their... That's what the Drukhari player wants to do. When you're playing against Drukhari, you need to stop what they want to do rather than do what you want to do. And honestly, that's the only way, I think. It's tough. I think I really like the Hellblades because they're good against the Raiders, but also excellent against their little 5-man squads that are holding objectives. I usually fly them around, getting engaged and also sniping off the guys who are holding their back objectives. They're pretty good at that. The Leviathans will literally just walk up the board and soak up as much firepower as they can before they get into combat and probably inevitably die. I like to strap under killer missiles on them just because it's shoom shoom, might do some damage. Volkite, so good against... I can't stress this enough. I've tried to say it so many times that people run the dual Volkite Contemptor, which is a really good loadout, but for no extra points, you can put a lot of Volkite shots on a Leviathan. 8 shots. That is a lot. And sure, it's only strength 5, it's no AP, but On 6s, you're getting mortal wounds. You could have a raider on 1 or 2 wounds left. Of course, you're going to put the Volkite into him at that point. You might spike it, and if you take out that raider, it's so clutch. I can't tell you the amount of times that has come up. And it's the same with the drills. They're 10-point upgrade on the drills, but they're so worth it.
Yeah.
When I'm looking at an army, one of the first things I ask myself is how much Volkite can I put in this? Because it is the clutch weapon. It's so good, and it's always like range 30. You know, it's like, I don't know. I think it's a fantastic weapon, and people are sleeping on it. To an extent, not with the Contemptors, but like there's a lot more units than just Contemptors that can take them. Where it's there, take it, because like honestly, how many times have you been like, oh my god, I brought that raider down to 1 wound, or that squad only has like 2 guys left in it, I wish I had the perfect weapon to finish it. And it is that weapon. I can't stress it enough. It's 2 damage as well. Like it's really good.
Oh, the Leviathan one is 2 damage?
Yeah. It's the exact same profile as the drill one, I think. It's just got a different range. I think the drill one is 18 inches and the Leviathan one is 30.
The drill one is strength 6, AP 0. Is it 1 damage? I thought it was 1 damage for the drill.
Think it's 2.
Maybe
it is 2.
And then obviously mortals on 6 or a mortal on 6.
Yeah.
But okay, but Volkite, I never thought about it on the Leviathan. You son of a bitch.
It's free. It's free.
Yeah.
You know, why are you bringing heavy flamers?
Yeah.
When you can bring this for the same points.
Right, yeah.
And 10 points for a hunter killer missile could come in insanely clutch. You don't know. If you have it floating around, that's like, whenever I'm like, 20 points left in my list, cool, 200 killer missiles, 1 in each guy. You know? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm still playing around with like the sort of the other ways of like counter. So like one of the tough things is incubi. They're really hard to deal with, and it's not because of the tormentors. It's just because, like, it's the thing I was saying where it's like trading up. You know, the hardest thing to do in the Drukhari match is work out when to deploy your berserkers and how many to deploy at once. 5 berserkers will more than likely kill most infantry Drukhari things that are on the board, and can probably give a raider a pretty good beating as well if you put on the strats.
Yeah.
So you usually only need 5 if you're going into combat, so don't bring out 10.
Right.
Like, that's so important, unless you know they're going in 2 different directions.
Yeah.
This goes back to why I really like the drill, because you can afford to leave the 5 in there without having the fear of it being a rhino and exploding. You know, the drill will live, the rhino will not. It's that simple. So you keep them inside the drill until they have to. There was like a really weird moment as well in our first game where like all my berserkers got back inside the drills and there was like nothing else on the board except 2 drills. That was weird, but anyway. But like that's the thing you can do with the drills, because they can like move around and all that. But so and the character support is really important as well. You always need your HQ buffing going on nearby. I think the Exalted Champion is really coming in clutch for me lately as just like the full reroll to wound, because you know, against the Dark Elder, especially, like, there's a lot of toughness 6, there's some toughness 7 going around, so the wound reroll's pretty important. So there's a lot of things we can use to combat them, but the order in which we need to take them down is the most important thing. Not overcommitting your force too early. I'm telling you, like, if you ever overkill against the Drukhari, you're going to feel it in the next turn, because whatever you've overkilled them with is going to die. Like, if you put 10 berserkers into 10 incubi, sure, you'll kill the incubi, and then you don't have any berserkers and they have 10 more incubi coming at you. It's the most important part about fighting them, 100% is, and you're only going to understand that by playing against them. I can't tell you exactly how many to commit at the right time. You need to understand yourself. You need to have it happen to you and say, oh, okay, I didn't need to do that. That was a really bad play. And when it happens, you will not forget it. I promise you that, because that was drilled into me immediately. So I think understanding that they're going to hit you in a lot of successive waves, that's it. It's not going to be the hammer, you know? It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts, which is very Drukhari. But there's so much to digest. Like, I could harp on for hours about different really niche aspects of, like, but then, you know, Rax can do this, or like, you know, Scourges can be here, or like, this is when you need to take Ravagers. There's so much you can talk about, but as a general overview, just understanding that weapons that we have, which are strength 6 and strength 7, medium AP, so AP 2, and damage 2-ish, that kind of bracket, or damage 1, pretty good against them as well. That's what you want to be hitting on all your offensive output. I know a lot of people are saying heavy bolters are the key against them. I think probably they would be good. I can see it. I am not fully sure. I need to run them a little bit more and kind of make up my mind on them. I'm not entirely sure if I want a Havoc squad in my list anymore. I'm actually thinking of dropping the Havocs, just getting 2 spawn and putting them on my back objectives and getting more going forward, you know?
Okay. The Heavy Bolter, I think, is a good choice in general as a list option. Personally, the Rapier Quad Heavy Bolter, I think, is one of our steals because, but you know, Strength 5 is such a kind of awkward strength value. It's not wounded on 4s against much in the game because Toughness 5 is fairly rare or fairly uncommon.
Yep.
You know, it's wounding on 3s against anything, you know, Toughness 4, Toughness 3. But the Toughness 6 stuff, it's not meeting. It's not getting any improvement against the Raiders, right?
Yep.
But the strength for me is the volume of fire. The strength 5 is fine. -1 AP is good. Fine. But the damage 2. Now, obviously, some armies will reduce that damage and stuff like that. But for me, the Quad Heavy Bolter is good in. The Heavy Bolter is good in 2 ways. One on the Rapier because it's dirt cheap. It's just Dakka. It may as well, I would think, man, it's a little bit expensive if it was 85 points for like 8 bolt guns or something, right? Like just a single fire 8 bolt guns. That's a bit expensive, but I understand. But to get 4 heavy bolters for 85 points is just very good in general.
85 points for an objective sitter that spits out a lot of shots.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
T5, 5 wounds. Yeah. The other way, of course, is triple predators with kill shot.
Yeah, totally, 100%. That is totally legit. I think is good.
It's the second best way to run the heavy bolter, just because you get +1 to wound and +1
damage as well.
So damage 3 heavy bolters that are wounding a raider on 4s with However, no matter how much I try and twist it, triple is too expensive. It's a huge investment for the 3 predators.
I think it's really good if you get the first turn, but if you don't, the Dark Lances will lift the predators.
The problem is, it's better now in 9th than it was in 8th, but you have to spend 3 CP. You have to reserve them. If you're bringing 3 predators, you have to reserve them, because otherwise, any player that goes, oh yeah, you've got that kill shot strategy, that if I just kill 1 predator, it's now useless. But if you can do it, but it's not good against every army. I mean, we're talking about a very specific. I'm not going to play all my games. I'll be lucky if I get to play Drukhari this year, quite frankly. So I'm not going to throw them in just because they happen to be good against Drukhari.
And it's like you're looking at investment versus payback. 3 CP, a lot of points. Probably need a character to give them rerolls.
Well, you're using Khorne. You're spending about 500 points. You're using Khorne. You're putting 3 CP +1 CP every turn you kill shot. Khorne is only buffing them. He's not buffing anyone else or doing any combat.
He's not fighting.
Yeah. So now they will wreck easily 4 raiders in 1 round of shooting. 4 raiders are gone with 3 predators. But that's 85.
They have to be able to see 4 raiders as well. Right? That's the problem.
And even then, that's only like 350 odd points. So
you haven't even made your cost back or your CP.
You haven't made your cost or your CP. And they've been given a turn of at least 1 turn of movement before you've done that. So the shit that jumps out is, if it's the fighty stuff, doesn't care. And if it's the shooty stuff, well, there'll be one they can just advance back or, run back to get to. But the general, the aim I'm going for is I like the cheap volume available, whether it's heavy bolters. Autocannons are better, but a little bit more of a premium. Like
and I know
pay a little bit for the not as many shots generally.
I'm sorry that I can't give credit to exactly who it was, but I know someone in the World Leaders subreddit, the Discord chat there, did the proper math on heavy bolter versus autocannon before for Havocs, and the heavy bolter came out on top in almost every situation. But I think the one place it actually didn't was against T6 vehicles, and we were like, oh, but like T6 vehicles don't exist, so it's irrelevant. Yeah. And now suddenly we have raiders. So you know, I like the autocannons, and like that's why I have them strapped to my Hellblades. That's why I have them strapped to my Leviathans. I think it was Dierka in the Red Path Discord who had a similar version of my list, except he'd taken out the Leviathans and put in Sicarans.
Yes.
I think that
was him. Yeah.
I think that is more competitive than my list. I think it is much better. I'm such a sucker for Leviathans that I can't say no to them. Right. But I think the Sicarans are a better choice overall. I think they're really, really good. They're cheaper, have really good firepower, better firepower than the Leviathan. Obviously can't fight, but that's kind of redundant.
Yeah.
I think they have like Helverin equivalent autocannons on them with like high volume of shots and can take sponson weapons. They're solid. There's another unit that people can consider. In terms of like, just like, you gotta really like look at your list and be like, how many raiders can I kill every turn? And if I kill them, can I kill the things that come out of them? Yeah. So you need to have combat units at that point. So that's where that kind of comes in.
Yeah.
You need to have your berserkers, your raptors, whatever else you're bringing, your red butchers if they're in there as well. You need to have your HQs around. You need to be killing those units. You cannot afford to let them get back in to another transport, because they will just go and do exactly what they did in the last turn.
Yeah.
So it's all in the positioning. I would say it's never been more important to focus on your movement phase and think 2 turns ahead and just really work out where you want to be, and to try and make sure that you're not letting the Dark Eldar stop you from being where you want to be. Play your own game as much as you can and react to them. You need to be tampering with what they want to do as much as you want, but you also need to be racking up your own points. Which brings me on to saying Drukhari are so bloody easy to pick secondaries against. So easy.
Through that. Take us through, because secondaries is something I tend to like. Okay, I'm taking engage, I'm taking scramblers, and I've got a list of stuff where, I can take, if it's this mission, I can take this mission. Otherwise, I just hope to God they've got enough armor for me to blow up or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, give us your view on the secondaries to take against them. I think I know where you're going, but yeah.
Yeah. So engage, first of all, because the Hellblades, you've seen it yourself now how efficient that is.
Yeah.
Hellblades and 3 Raptor squads, I'm going to max out engage.
Yeah.
It's happening. Short of my Hellblades all being shot down turn 1, which doesn't really happen.
No.
Bring it down, because they are spamming those raiders, they're spamming Ravagers, they're probably bringing Venoms as well. That is points galore for you. You can go crazy, Really, really easy points. You might not max it out, but you will consistently get points.
Yeah.
In the same note, grind them down. Also really good. Each of those transports worth a point, because I think they're 10 wounds each now, aren't they? The Raider?
I will pull it up right here.
I'm pretty sure they are, which would mean
I want to say you're right. 10 wounds, yes.
So that's a point for grind them down. So great, So if you're bringing both of those, you're getting point for bring it down, point for grind it down every time you kill a transport. They usually spam so many small units. Am I thinking of the right one? No, Tinder Ranks is the one I was thinking of, where it's like points for every 10 models or every 10 wounds unit. So Tinder Ranks is really good. Because they have so many small units and so much infantry that you can rack up a lot of points. But grind them down for the same reason of lots of small units. Really easy for you to kill more of them than it is for them to kill of you, depending on your list, of course. Like, there's always like Kabalites lurking around. There's always a Venom. Like I said, Raiders aren't hard to kill. It's all going towards that. Deploy Scramblers, still always a good choice. Engage, still always a good choice.
Yeah.
The fact that you have 3 kill-based secondaries, which are all almost always valid against them, and can be tailored depending on exactly what you're coming up against, is fantastic. Especially considering that Bring It Down and the other 2 are in separate categories. So you can bring one of those 2, bring it down, and then engage or deploy Scramblers, or you have that. You're never really having that problem of like, oh, what do I take against these guys? Also, sometimes they bring a lot of characters, so sometimes Assassinate is even worthwhile, because all those characters are going to be in your face. That is where your massive executions comes out of the drill, and he just comes in and takes the heads. He's the left field play. But
you found it. You found his.
That's it. But yeah, so it's stuff like that. The secondaries are relatively easy to pick against. I think that is the one thing that we have going for us on that front.
See, I was a little skeptical, or not skeptical. I was reconsidering, because generally I play engage, as a de facto. It's just I'm taking engage because that's how my list plays. The issue I was thinking about is like when an army is able to zone out, right, to very easily, you know, like they've got these big chunky models that just take up a large area. They can like have some dudes come out and kind of like, you know,
take up space.
Yeah, it become because if you know you can stop your opponent scoring 3 points a turn easily, you're probably going to do it if it works within your plan, right? So I started to think it's like, but then I couldn't beat them on domination just because of the sheer amount of stuff they can continually throw. Like I would, you know, depending on the game and the mission and the number of objectives and stuff, you've always got to consider it. But I'm glad to hear you say that engage still seems to be found again, because obviously the Hellblades, and I'm running 2 squads of Raptors and 2 Hellblades, so there's still that first turn. More than likely, I've got 2 units in every quadrant. So like the first couple of rounds, I'm fairly secure in getting 3 points for a game.
And I mean, like, they can zone you out, but 5 Raptors is a really small footprint. You know, it's not hard to squeeze them in somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
Kill a couple of Cabalites off an objective as well, because that's just what they do. Honestly, man, like 5 Raptors would kill 5 Incubi, I reckon, pretty easily as well. With the right stratagems. Like, that's the thing, like, Raptors are, like, as a hunter-killer squad, Raptors are damn good for Drukhari.
Yeah. Well,
really damn good.
Any squishy infantry, anything that doesn't have a good save, like, you know, it's rocking a 5-up or a 6-up save, or, you know, no invuln or a 6-up invuln, like through power from pain, and it's T3 and 1 wound. So your Eldar, your Imperial Guard, most Tau infantry, that stuff, Raptors are perfect for it. The volume, the you know, going to be strength 4, so wounded on 3s, and the AP1, they can often, with the apocalyptic frenzy and stuff, they're up there. They're a skirmish unit that are exactly as you say, like a hunter killer. They are designed to pick off the weak, like that in the fluff. That's what the Raptors do, is they pick off weak units, like the injured and the people, you know, in the you know, medical tents or whatever the hell they had before the first millennium. That's what the Raptors do. They break where the line's already broken. They go in and just annihilate what's there.
They're like the chaos elements, you know.
Yeah.
So use them on the board as the chaos elements.
Yeah.
And like, they do it well, especially against the Drukhari. And like, if you get into your head how and where to move the Raptors, when to engage with them, they will pay dividends. I'm very sure of that. So yeah, I think I mean, at the end of all that, it's still a very tough matchup. You know, it is still. I still think the deck guard is tougher.
Really?
Yeah, I think the deck guard right now I would take Dark Elder.
What version of Death Guard? What Death Guard build, or just their general, like reducing the toughness, like Mortarian switching off your rerolls and stuff?
It's really any deck guard build, to be honest, because they just fight so well.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but they like Plague Marines fight as good as Berserkers.
Effectively as offensive, but they're just so much tougher.
Which is the thing, and like their Terminators are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like you got Mortarian, Death Shroud. Like I don't think I've seen a deck guard list that I would be like, oh yeah, I can fight that and win. You know, I'd give it a try. But when I say that, I mean like I would go into the game like very confident I will come out with a win. Never that like I can't win this. You know, I don't think that way. But like you can always win a game, no matter what.
There's always a way.
It's just about maintaining that focus, which is that's like one of the most important things with the Dark Eldar, is that like it's as much a mental game as it is a game. With the Dark Eldar, you need to be switched on. You never need to give up, because it will seem like there will be moments where you're like, oh, they have me now, but like if you just persevere, you can work something out for sure. I can't really. I think that's actually worth doing a video on its own, of like the mental fortitude you need to kind of remain focused. But yeah, it's especially prevalent against them, and then against the deck guard, I think it's just really hard, man. Yeah. They're such a tough matchup. Mortarian is just. I mean, like you've done the math yourself, you know. Yeah,
it takes a lot.
That's a tough one.
And yeah, I mean, for me, like for Mortarion, it's hope to God you can outrun him and win on points and just feed what you can in to keep him still and you know, out of harm's way. So, you know, mind you, my list is different now. Now I've got drills. So
drills do work on
anything really withstand a drill.
It's like D3 plus 6 damage against Mortarion.
It's ridiculous, yeah. The drill with Khorne. You 2 drills with Khorne standing there because they're, you know, weapon skill 4, I think.
Yeah.
So they're getting over 75% hits against anyone that's not modifying that, right? 50% straight up and then 50% of the fails. So, and they have a decent amount of attacks. And
I think they have like 3 attacks each or something like that. Yeah.
And then the additional hateful assault. And then, you know, are they, I think strength 9 or strength 10 or strength times 2.
I think there's strength 16, strength 14 or 16 or something.
Yeah, Mortarion is wounded on 3s, if not 2s. So by drill. And it's AP, ridiculous AP, forcing
maybe 4, I think.
Yeah. And then, the D3 plus 6 against certain new like vehicles and stuff, and monsters and vehicles, I believe.
I love it. It's like it's like why I look for like stupid units in my books, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna run that now. And it just happened that one of the stupid units was finally good. But yeah, so I mean, they can certainly challenge him, but he will just pick them up like a Pringle can and throw them around the battlefield if he gets into them.
But you know,
I mean, like, there's another video in the whole deck guard thing, but from my own standpoint, I would be more scared as a World Eater player to play against deck guard than I would against Drukhari.
Okay.
I don't know how much of that is like my understanding of the Drukhari anyway, just because like, you know, I'm exposed to it so much here and like I really get it. I think a lot of the fear of the deck guard is like kind of like fear of the unknown or fear of the unexperienced, I guess, is probably more apt. They're just one of those armies that I'm like, man, I don't want to play those guys. Like, you know, they're tough. They're really, really tough. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what I have to say on that one.
Yeah, I think I mean any Codex army, any army that's got its Codex this year or this edition, they're always a tough fight. There's no 2 ways about it because everyone's getting rules. Like, you know, more rules that you can shake a stick at, and it is what it is. We all have our, you know, complaints and our memes and stuff about 4-year-old Codex, but it is what it is. We know it's coming at some point. We're going to get new rules. Maybe someone in a year's time, someone's going to invite us on their Admech channel or Blood Angels channel, so you guys, you've got the World Eaters, and you know, Dara, you just won the London GT with your World Eaters list, and
you've taken the LVO with yours.
I was gonna say my local RTT, but hey, okay, we'll say LVO.
Represent.
Someone might come and say, "How did you guys do it?" Well, you know, it's just player skill, not the fact that just, you know, putting Khorne on the table gives you, you know, like 50 VP.
I will strap as many Terex Pattern Assault drills to my body as I can, and I will show up to that video wearing drills and wearing Hellblades, because that's all the vibe's going to be. I'll be like, ah! And that's it. You know?
We have to make the Drill Gang t-shirt, man.
It's in the works. It's in the works. Yeah, I got stuff going for that, don't worry. Right, it's cool. Pretty hyped. But yeah, I mean, like, on that note, it's like really interesting. I was like reflecting on it today with a couple of the guys in the other World Leaders Discord, and it really kind of like stood out to me that like how much I appreciate the World Leaders community and like their sort of like patience, because like there's a lot of stuff going on where people are getting really complaining about certain things, and I just love that we have like a dog tier codex so bad and so old, but like no one really kind of cares, you know? Everyone's kind of just like,
fun.
Yeah, we're having fun. And like, yeah, we all know it's old. We all know it's bad. We're still playing it. We're still having a good time. It doesn't matter. Like,
so like I started the channel October last year, right? And God knows what kind of list I was running. But I've gone through so many different list builds and introduced different units and toyed with different things that I don't feel, whilst I know, obviously how old our codex and how dated it is, I'm still having fun with it. Like every night I'll sit around like before bed and, just look at my list. It's like, okay, what if I swap in this warlord trait? Well, that changes how that works. So now I need to change that unit. It's like, okay, like
scheming, like you're always scheming,
Yeah.
I love it. It's
yeah,
like I would say that, like, okay, our book is really, really bloody old, and there's a lot of books that are really damn new. I've had way more fun in 9th edition than I did in 8th.
Yeah.
And that was when my rules
even with only like
were
6 or 7 games I've had.
and like my rules were as up to date as everyone else in that edition, and I was like, there was like not like I don't like this game, but like there was definitely
I know what you mean.
Like I'm loving it. It's, and like I think it reflects in the community. I think there's a lot of really fantastic people who are still having a lot of fun with this army despite everything that's happening. And like, while there might be like a couple of days of like the sky is falling, and I'm so guilty of that. Like I remember when the Drukhari book came out, I was like pretty like, oh, like this is it for us. We can't beat them. But like we got over it, and it's like we're getting ideas. We're coming up with things, and I just like I really appreciate the community for that, rather than just continuing the mindset of like we can't win and we won't win and we won't try to win. Like, we're always scheming. The whole group is coming up with ideas. Like, shout out to my boy Krieger as well, who's always repping his Mastodon. I love that energy, and just like people coming up with these crazy ideas, and that's how we're going to keep going. And until the codex comes out, I'm so ready for more of this like crazy scheming, and I can't wait for the next like drill gang meme or the next like Hellblade meme. And I can't wait for someone to come to me and be like, hey, I got this idea, and I'm like, yo, that is I like it, and I'm gonna buy it, and I'm already ordering. I love the community for that energy.
I think that's like one of the reasons I wanted to push competitive play, because I know competitive play is something that it puts a lot of people off, right? A lot of people automatically assume that the competitive players are the win at all costs, BO, sort of like deodorant lacking, neckbeard, creepy sort of like guys that, just toxic and being racist and sexist and all these awful things. And we're not, or they exist, no doubt. But I want every competitive player I've met in real life online just want to play the damn game. We want to play with toy soldiers, and we want to
have fun.
And if you and I ever get to have our TTS game, I want you to bring your absolute best game. I don't want you to throw like hold your punches back. That's the
I would expect the same of you. I would expect a brutal cutting edge list and a brutal cutting edge performance. But I totally agree with you. Like the best friends I've made in this hobby were at tournaments. I've never been to a tournament where I haven't been like, or I haven't come away with a new friend.
Right, okay.
Even when I went abroad, I met some really amazing people who I was like, dude, I hope I will meet you again at another event. I like, while I understand that there's tropes and there's stereotypes of that guy, and don't get me wrong, those people are out there, but they are by so like the vast minority. It's like it can't even be stated. Like it's they are there, and like sure, I've like played against a couple in my time, and it's annoying, but like you have that in a local gaming store as well. You have that in like a friend circle of people who play Warhammer. It's there. It's not exclusive to competitive. I
think 100% agree, but I think to go beyond that, it's less prevalent in the higher level competitive scene for sure, like GTs and above, because there is generally a code of conduct, or you're paying to go and play the game, right? Yes, you will get them, but like my local competitive scene here is just starting to take back up, and everyone who plays in it, like it feels like if someone was to be a prick, okay, you're out. We don't want you here. We don't want your $10 entry fee. No. Whereas your local gaming store, I understand the position the business owner's in. hopefully they have a policy, but they also have to make a living, and they may not.
It's a very difficult
it's
position to be in. Yeah, it is.
So,
and like I think a lot of so this is like more than just competitive. This is like my problem with a lot of the community as a whole is that you only ever hear the bad, you know?
Yeah.
So like you're only ever gonna go on like whatever and see like, oh, this person cheated, or like here's a story about that guy that I played against. And like whenever you're like, oh, you know, you talk to someone new and you're like, have you ever played competitive? They'll be like, oh, I tried it this one time, but I had this really bad experience. And like that's all you ever hear about. They're all the story. I wish people talked more about the amazing experiences they had against like people who were so nice to them. And like I could tell 1,000,001 stories about people who were like so kind to me at an event, or just like, you know, sat me down after they had absolutely bludgeoned me in a game and were like, okay, here's how you can do better. Like, I remember when I was like a kid and I was like just getting into the hobby. I'd never played any games, and I went to like a tournament, even though I didn't really understand what that was, and I was like, cool, I'm just gonna go and have some games because I've never played before. And like some guy destroyed me with his Grey Knights because it was like 5th edition, but they were really good. And I was just like, whoa, what just happened? And he like sat me down afterwards. He's like, you haven't played like much Warhammer before, have you? And I was like, no. And he was like, cool, I'll just chat with you and like talk you through like, you know, what happened, why it happened, blah blah blah. And I didn't really understand a lot of it because I was young, but I really appreciated it because I was like, this guy is like being really nice to me, you know. And that has happened throughout my competitive sort of, not like career, but like, you know, time. Everyone, not like literally everyone, but like I've had so many good memories of like meeting new people, just chatting after games, having a laugh, making friends. And like I just, whenever I say it, I'm like, I can't recommend trying it enough. And people are like, oh, I still don't want to try it. It's a pity that I can't change your mind, you know, because it's such a fantastic community of honestly the best people in this hobby, I think.
Yeah, I think I agree. I love it.
I mean, we probably wouldn't have met if it wasn't for competitive, you know.
No doubt it. Like, because that's exactly how, you know, we both. Like, I think, you know, you posted some of your stuff in the Facebook group, and it's like, oh, so you're writing competitive World Eater stuff too. Cool. And
there you go. Yeah.
From there. But yeah, okay. I think we've kind of covered, you know, the biggest thoughts, and for everyone at home, like, you may have noticed we relied a lot on Dara there for the nuts and bolts of the Drukhari, and that's in part because he happens to live with a Drukhari player, but also I don't know any Drukhari players, and I'm only just getting into TTS, but that's something I'm going to develop for myself over the next few weeks for sure. But like I mentioned at the beginning, this is something we're going to try and do semi-regularly as we get up to speed with working together, you know, trying to pin down these kind of regular videos. I think we talked about, depending on book release and things like that, we want to maybe look at AdMech quite soon.
Yeah, so my brother plays AdMech, so
okay.
me and him have been scheming, you know. He's just getting back, not like just getting back into the hobby, but properly committing to 40k now. So he's like been going back and forth. Maybe we got lots of ideas. We got some cool. Oh man, I love his list so much. It's like so it's all the, you know, the D-Day floating boats. I can't remember what they're called, the Scorpius, but they have the Titan Guard from Forge World, you know, with the shields and the lances inside them. Man, like the aesthetic of that. Imagine those hatches battering down, these guys with like shields and lances. Oh, dude, it's so cool. But the AdMech book is a whole realm of fun that we need to talk about, because Drill Gang is going to be useful. Yeah, I'm telling you right now.
The thing is, we're going underground. Drill Gang as well if they want. I don't know why they'd want to, quite frankly, but
they don't really need to anymore.
No, they don't. They certainly don't.
It's another video, but I'm telling you right now, teaser: Drill Gang is going underground. That's what we're doing.
What?
Yeah, we're returning, going right back to the roots. Right back to the roots. Wow, so yeah, little teaser for next time. But lots to be broken down there. So yeah, I'm like you're saying, you know, we'll do this more regularly. We'll talk about what's hot. You know, it might not always be a book release. It might just be what's going on in the meta.
Is there a list that's suddenly like everyone's trying to run, or why are we back to running, you know, like Iron Hands again?
Or if there's like a tempo change for us, you know, like, I mean, I guess like I know I don't want to like I don't know take credit for anything or anything, but like when I started talking about the drills, like that was kind of like a flip
yeah, that's
for,
all you do. It was all you.
but like I guess a few people were kind of like, hey, let's, you know, there's people taking drills now. That was like the tempo change, I guess, for us. And like, you know, similarly, like 5-man MSU Berserkers was another big change and stuff like that. You know, it's, I guess when there's a change like that, you know, we can sit down and be like, cool, why is this suddenly really prevalent?
Since 9, we've got Raptors suddenly became a thing.
Yeah.
For the MSU Berserkers became a thing.
Lightning Claw Red
drill,
Butchers.
Yeah, Lightning Claws. You know, we've had development. Excuse me. We've had development, and yes, there were. You know, we did get some rules changes, and the Lightning Claw became different and stuff with the FAQ. But as soon as we get, you know, GW sprinkles a few crumbs for us, someone in our community is like, "There we go."
Yeah.
But this is suddenly good.
Like, when we had the Raptors, that was in January for that FAQ.
Yeah.
We could have something next week with the next points update.
Yeah.
Like, who knows? You know, it's so crazy that like next week we could be sitting down and being like, hey man, what about mutilators?
Yeah.
You know? Or we could be like, that greater possess.
It's not a spelling error. They obviously meant 1 point per model. I mean,
we can hope and dream. But yeah, like who knows? It's like, yeah, it's 7 days, everything could have changed again.
Yeah.
Which I love how fast the meta evolves now. It's so crazy. Like, we're back to the good old days, and like, so hyped to see tournaments coming back. You know, obviously if it's safe, it's unfortunately we're still not there yet here, but I'm looking forward to November, getting out to Coventry, you know, hitting on my first ever super major, which is gonna be crazy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man, and it's good to see things are happening again, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, I think we've covered what we need to cover. So yeah, everyone stay tuned. We're gonna, you know, be giving you some more great content. Dara's got some stuff, you know, hopefully dropping this week. I think was later this week, depending on. I know you said you've got most of your next video kind of recorded.
Yeah. I would say probably a couple of days, to be honest.
Okay.
A little quick painting tutorial, and then got some more stuff. Might even do something on Bellicor. Who knows? Yeah. But we'll see about that. Got some painting stuff coming up. I might do a couple of little tactic ideas that I have going on as well. Nothing, definitely. All soft plans right now, but so we can talk about those another time. But we got some more painting tips coming up, since a few people seem to kind of dig the first one.
So this video will hopefully go live Monday or Tuesday, and then I'll drop your painting video a couple of days after that. And then, so should be back to business as usual for the channel. All right, so Dara, thanks for being on. Do you want to take us out? You brought us in, you've got to take us out.
Alrighty, everyone. Stay healthy, stay safe, and kill main burn.